away. We'll just keep it moving here. Defensive ends, 53-man roster. He's got them carrying 6. Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, Kingsley Enagbare, Brenton Cox, Baron Sorrell, and Colin Oliver. Now, we all know there's a realistic chance Colin Oliver could end up on the PUP if that hammy isn't fully healthy by the end of camp. He may be so far behind on practice and everything that let's just start him on the PUP. If that's the case, I could see them potentially carrying Aaron Mosby, or I could see them stashing Colin Oliver on the PUP, throwing Aaron Mosby over to the practice squad, and only carrying 5 defensive ends / edge defenders kind of going into the season. So I could see that playing out that way. Everybody's now taking guess on what you're actually doing over at Jacob. So Jacob had to pick Ma up. There you go. So what do you think about this, man? And what do you think about Colin Oliver? Do you think he'll be healthy so he doesn't have to go on PUP? Or do you think it could be something almost like a 4-week red shirt there just to free up a roster spot? But Bill Huber's got him keeping 6 here. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, the old saying is you can wish in one hand and crap in the other and see which one fills up first. I would wish on everything that I have that Mr. Colin Oliver could come in there. Nice. I just don't think that he is advanced enough. Just, the unique situation that he was. Some people thought he may be a tweener. Him coming in with that hamstring and just really getting no live time, missing some integral, some crucial parts of camp. I just think that this is starting to look more and more like a redshirt year. And I actually really am impressed with Aaron Mosby. It seems like every time that he gets an opportunity, he excels or at least outperforms what I would expect him to do. And let's not forget about guys like even Desmond Alexander, who I think has put some pretty decent tape out there. And I agree with at least that first 5. Obviously, I don't think there's anybody on there other than maybe like a Kingsley that could surprise us. But I think another year more after that injury that really seemed to kind of make him tentative, that he's going to have a good shot to make this. So I agree with that, but I'd probably honestly swap Mosby and Oliver if I'm being real.
Yeah. Clint, the armchair quarterback, says, I don't see Maka on there. Joseph says, where's Maka? Micah Parsons. So that's the other thing, too. You bring Micah Parsons in, 2 first-round picks, $40 million per year, and who you paying? It's wild. And listen, it could happen, Jacob.
We could look like idiots tomorrow, but
here's the other thing too. Precedent, right? Precedent. How many times since Goody has been here? Goody took over in 2018. Am I right there? 2018, I think, is when he took over.
That sounds correct.
2019, something like that, as GM. Since he got here, how many times has Brian Gutekunst traded for a player, any position, traded for a player, and then gave him a contract? I don't think it's happened one time, right? So they traded for Randall Cobb, and then he was gone in 1 year, but he's not done one of these big trades.
Is Jacobs playing on an existing contract, or how did that work?
Who's that?
Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs. Oh, yeah.
Well, he wasn't traded. That was a free agent sign. That's right. Yeah. I can't believe the Giants did that.
I know. It's wild, man. You talking Xavier McKinney from the Giants.
That's what I'm saying. Giants, the Raiders. To me, it's crazy.
Yeah. So, again, it's just about precedent. It could happen, but, man, what are we talking about? 2% chance? Maybe even less.
You're right. I don't remember. Yeah. I can't think of anything.
All right. So, again, defensive end, that's how Bill Huber sees it.
Says Preston Smith. What did he trade for Preston and bring him in with him and Z?
Signed him.
That was another free agent. Yeah.
Yeah. He actually went and signed. If there's one thing there's precedent for from Brian Gutekunst is when he makes a splash in free agency, he likes to do it in twos.
Yeah.
Like he went and got Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith, same position, right? I say same position. They're both edge defenders lined up opposite of each other. He went out that year and got those 2 guys at the same time. Also added Adrian Amos, I believe, that same exact year. And then, of course, he goes back into free agency 2 years ago now, year and a half, however you want to say it. Xavier McKinney, Josh Jacobs, got 2 more, right? And then last year goes and gets Aaron Banks, Nate Hobbs. So,
and also, didn't he do Rasul Douglas and who's the linebacker that we loved for a hot minute?
Devondre Campbell. Those guys, if I remember correctly, were pulled in off the scrap heap once the season started, I believe.
I think so.
Now, one of them may have came in camp, but it wasn't like actual free agent frenzy. Let's go out and put a high bid in on top.
Still, he's got a darn good track record of bringing in free agents when he decides to pull that trigger. Like, that's insane.
that's why when there were many fans that were really, really down on Nate Hobbs,
Nate Hobbs, my fault. I'll admit
and
that. Both of them.
I want it. You go look at the PFF grade and you go, what are we seeing here? What are we doing? But then you step back and go, Goody got a good track record. Goody's got a darn good track record of free agents, so I'm going to sit back and let him do his thing, And maybe these are the guys he missed on. And if he does miss on one or both of these guys, it's not the end of the world. He's literally batting 1,000 with these big free agents so far. I mean, even Adrian Amos was a very, very, very good safety his first couple years in Green Bay. And then it kind of tapered off on down the stretch. And we know how the contracts are set up. 4-year deal is really a 3-year deal. And sometimes a 4-year deal is just a 2-year deal. I did have something marked here I want to hit real quick. I thought it was interesting. Nathan earlier, sorry for the delay, Nathan. He says, Clayton, I noticed in Jordan Love's contract, he's under contract for this year and next year with the potential out after 2026. If he doesn't perform this year or next year, do you see Green Bay take a quarterback? If he doesn't perform, he's specifying that. So don't jump on him. He's not saying, no, get rid of Love. Listen, that's how Goody does that's how Goody and Russ Ball want the contracts worked, is they want themselves to have an out later. As in terms of would he take a quarterback? If this was the first year of Jordan Love's contract, Goody would take a quarterback if the board fell right. I mean, he values it that much. That's just the old school Green Bay way, right? We've seen him do it with Brett. With Brett, hell, when they got Brett, and this goes all the way back to Ron Wolf, right? It's just how things have happened. And this is the same front office tree too. When they went and traded a first-round pick for Brett Favre, they had Don Majkowski. Don Majkowski was a stud. Yeah, people forget Don Majkowski was a damn good quarterback, right? So if Ron Wolf wasn't willing to spend a first-round pick on Brett Favre, what would the franchise – will we won a Super Bowl in 96? You know what I'm saying? Now you go to Brett Favre. They got Brett Favre now. We don't need a quarterback. What do? You go and draft Aaron Rodgers. If they hadn't drafted Aaron Rodgers when they had Brett Favre, do we win a Super Bowl in 2010, 2011? I don't know. And then, of course, now we find ourselves in a position where we got another top 10 quarterback, in my opinion. Could be potentially top 5, maybe top 3 if he plays like he did the back half of 2023. Why is that possible? Because you had a Hall of Fame quarterback and you pulled the trigger and went and got another quarterback in the first round. So, so to answer your question, Nathan, it's set up that if for some reason Love were to fall flat on his face, they could get out of it after 2026. Absolutely. In terms of drafting a quarterback, Love can be the best quarterback in the league, and I think they would still maybe take a chance on a quarterback if it's the best player available, right? So, all right, moving along, defensive tackle. 53-man roster. Bill Huber says they're going to keep 5. Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Carl Brooks, Warren Brinson, Nazir Stackhouse, Keith Randolph on the practice squad. I like that defensive tackle room there, Jake. Now, I would love, don't get me wrong, I would love to have had one of our top draft choices like we talked about, right? Going into draft season, I felt like it was such a 3-tech heavy defensive draft that I would have been totally on board with them taking, one of the bigger names there in the first round. Mm-hmm. Boy, oh boy, looking back, Jacob, I'm so excited that Matthew Golden's on this team, man. And now I didn't really have a problem with it on draft night. You guys know I said Matthew Golden when it came to the pick. If we went around the table, who do we think we're going to take? I said, I think it's Matthew Golden. And it was Matthew Golden. I'm just so glad that was the pick now, man, because he's really flashed in camp. But that being said, though, if Kenny Clark is healthy, right, and they continue to build off what they did last year, being the second best run defense in terms of yards per carry and being a legit, top 7, top 8 pass defense, and I think they finished 5th in scoring defense, maybe even tied for like 3rd or 4th in scoring defense. I kind of like this defensive tackle room because chances are you're going to hit on one of these guys, Warren Brinson or Nazir Stackhouse. And I'm still blown away that we got Stackhouse has been the darling of camp, and we didn't have to use a draft pick on him, Jake.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing that does shock me here, which Coach Glenn said, no Wooden. He just casually Kobe Wooden off, and he doesn't even have him trying to make the practice squad because I don't think he would. He's got too much experience. He's got too much draft capital. So that to me is a little surprising. I haven't heard as much about Warren Brinson as I have about Stackhouse, which, like you just highlighted, is very peculiar given the fact that a guy like Nazir was able to slip into the UDFA. And there is just something crazy about seeing the big boys wearing 93. You know what I mean? Even going back to Slayton, obviously, to the OG, Mr. Gilbert. the grave digger Brown. I feel like that number should be forever not retired, but only dedicated to the big old boys, the big hog mollies, the guys that absolutely are just run stuffers. So the only pushback I would give to this list is that I think out of the two rookies that Nazir has earned a spot. I don't know if we could sneak Warren Brinson on the practice squad. I don't know how that would work, but it does kind of upset me to not see Wooden on this list. I feel like it's a little too early to let him go.
Yeah, I can respect
But I don't
that.
know. I don't know. And then maybe us trying to keep 6 here and make another adjustment somewhere else. The Keith Randolph thing, yeah, whatever. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a nice guy.
No,
Nazir Stackhouse, run stopper, guys. He's going to be your one in your nose, like one tech in the nose. Warren Brinson, they're saying, is showing flashes in pass rush. So I'm kind of looking at Warren Brinson. They may be expecting him to be what they thought Kobe Wooden could be.
Right.
And Nazir Stackhouse is going to kind of fill that TJ Slayton role, a bigger body guy. Now, Warren's bigger than Nazir, right? So in terms of height, I know, and I want to say he's right around the same in terms of weight. So Deadfish says no Wooden, he might be too light. I could see that, Deadfish. I could see that because they like to play Carl at the one tech. Many people didn't pick up on that last year. They like to put Carl Brooks in the one tech, and it just felt like Carl could handle it. And when I seen Kobe Wooden in the one tech, I don't know, man, it kind of felt like the problems we had with Devontae Wyatt before, like he was playing a little bit out of control. Maybe he wasn't comfortable in there with those big boys at the guard position. So, yeah. All right. Anything else on defensive tackle there, Jake?
No, I think that what you said earlier was pretty on point. The fact that, if you would have had me maybe do a draft redo or, whatever you want to call it, it would be very tempting to grab one of those big D tackles that were so promising in this draft. And we, how many times did we mock and we went cornerback or a D tackle or whatever the case may be, because we kind of all said, oh, we could go wide receiver. We all know it's never going to happen. And I fell victim to that. That's why I honestly didn't do a lot of research on Golden, because in my head, I thought he'd be gone by 15 at the latest. I really did. And the fact that he fell kind of into our lap, pretty cool. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers' agent says, Clayton, off-topic question, but would you make this Packers season somewhat of a success? What would make this Packers season somewhat of a successful season? NFC Championship? For me, to be a successful season, I hate to keep going back to it. It drives me crazy. That's why I was hoping we get a little bit older. But you got the youngest team in the league. I feel like if you get a playoff win, that's another step in the right direction. I don't think necessarily winning an NFC championship. If you're saying NFC championship win, it doesn't have to be quite to that. Making it to the NFC championship, Jacob, I think would be a huge step. Like, okay, we're one step closer in the Jordan Love era to kind of getting over the hump. But I do kind of feel like I'm, selling us short is the right way of putting it. Like maybe my expectations should be higher. I'm expecting somewhere between, 11 to 13 wins, 10 to 13 wins, somewhere in that range. And anytime you're talking about potentially having 13 wins, you should be in the NFC Championship. You should be right there in the conversation. So, I don't know, that's a tough question, Aaron. Aaron Rodgers' agent. For me, I think if you get a playoff win, it's in the right direction. And I understand there's going to be some people say, hey, man, listen, you got a playoff win 2 years ago. What are we talking about? Yeah. I can understand that argument too. So maybe you do have to get two playoff wins. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I think it's a good one, Aaron Rodgers' agent. The thing is what do you want to do? Do you look at it as in just from this year, or do you look at it from, Matt LaFleur with Rodgers? Like you said, we had the 3 consecutive 13-win seasons, didn't do crap in the playoffs. You look at it as Jordan Love when we actually go and beat the Cowboys, do all this kind of crazy stuff. But now you have to take a step back and say, all right, with this team this year, if it is the youngest team, even if it's not, I guarantee you we're going to be top 5 of youngest teams absolutely in the league. Does that mean, and I love somebody's answer here, it was Clint, armchair quarterback. He says, for me, it's sweeping the NFC North. So getting back to being a dominant person in your own division, especially when, for the longest time, the NFC North was not a very powerhouse division. It just wasn't because of the Bears and the Lions. And all of a sudden, when those two organizations decide to dust up and kind of, at least present that they're formidable, now we have to worry about beating those guys alone just to get ourselves into the window of that playoff berth. And then you could also start and talk about, I believe Matt LaFleur is 3-4 in the playoffs. And is that perfect? No, obviously not even close to what I would hope for. But the fact that we are perennial playoff contenders, at least to get into the wild card, if not win the division and then make another step. I think for this team, for this year, I would be happy with winning over 10 games, at least split in the NFC North, at least, if not winning 4 games. And to me, it'd be at least one playoff victory, if not more. That's where I would see. But honestly, I have a lot higher hopes right now. I think the defense is too good and the offense has too many weapons for us not to be at least a deep playoff team. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. AFAM in the chat says Jordan should be in his prime. No more learning curve. AFAM, I completely agree, man.
I actually agree with that.
I completely agree. This is the year, right? He's got to go out there and prove he's a top 10 quarterback. That's what he's got to do. And I'm not talking about statistically. I'm just talking about when the game's on the line and you got to make the right decision and protect the football and take the shots when you need to. And more importantly, in my opinion, take the check down when it's there.
Yes.
Take it on time, on schedule. Completely agree, AFM.
Or take the scramble when you can.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Robert Bertana says, Favre third-year Super Bowl, Rodgers third-year Super Bowl, Love is in his third year, make it happen. I think it's a fair point. It's a fair point. Now, I will say this. When Brett won the Super Bowl, they had the best defense in the league, right?
Yep.
When Aaron won the Super Bowl, they had the best defense in the league. With that being said, if this Jeff Hafley defense, Jacob, if they can somehow propel themselves to the best defense in the league, if they finish this year, and let's say they're top 3 in run defense, they're top 3 in pass defense, and they're top 3 to 5 in scoring, yes, Jordan Love, there's no excuse to not go on a run and have yourself in a position to win the freaking Super Bowl. So, yeah. All right, linebackers. Let's get to it, man. Holmes actually has a special request here. I'm going to try to give it to him, man. Tim ain't here, man. This whole show falls apart here, but let's see what he says here. He says, "Thank God never farted."
You think God never farted?
Completely agree. All right, linebackers, 53-man roster. 5 is what we're keeping. All right, on the 53, Edgerrin Cooper, Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, Tyron Hopper, Isaiah Simmons, Jamin Johnson going to the practice squad. I agree with it. Jacob, what do you think, man? You got any problems with carrying those 5? I'm excited to see what Isaiah Simmons does for sure, man.
That'd be my squad for sure. Yeah. Very, very excited with what could be that Simmons signing. I mean, that could be one of those when we look up in the next year or two and you're like, oh, wow, that was one of the, we talk about Amos, talk about Campbell, talk about X, all these sides. What if it's a guy like that? Another one that the Giants just let walk away after spending an 8th round draft pick on a guy that was billed to be an absolute, slash, like an actual slash on defense. What if we just, Hafley comes, takes him under his wing and says, hey, you're just going to let you play this position. Let's see you eat. And then boom, that could be a big catalyst. Definitely.
Brent in Indiana with the super chat. Thank you so much, Brent. Appreciate you, buddy. He says, everyone will bail Jordan out saying it's the youngest team. Oh, that's why I hate the fact that we're potentially the youngest team again, because I don't want to be, me personally, I don't want to be able to look at that and go, oh, no, look, so the youngest team. But damn, boys, it's like, if we're the youngest team, how many times in the history of the game has the youngest team won the Super Bowl? And that's just how my mind fires. I'm not saying it's correct. I'm not saying it's the right way to fan. I'm just simply saying that's how I run stuff through that filter of, okay, what would it take to break precedent from the past of getting over the hump if this, and this are the guidelines we're going off of? You know what I mean? So, yeah. Chris the Casual Win says these, and thank you for the super chat, Brent. I think it's a great point, man. It's a great point. These young guys played a lot of football, y'all. It's a good point, Chris.
I think that we'd have the youngest. I wish there was a metric to see, even though we are quote unquote the youngest team, we'd be the youngest team with the most experience, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, I would bet dollars to donuts that we would be.
Yeah, definitely. All right, moving along. Cornerbacks, 53-man roster. 5. Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine, Nate Hobbs, Bo Melton, and Kalen King. And he's got Kamal Haddon and Micah Robinson landing on the practice squad. So Micah Robinson kind of takes on that Kalen King role from last year, right? 7th round pick. Get him into camp. If he absolutely balls out, let him make the 53. If not, stash him on the practice squad like they did Kalen King. This is wild, man. Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine, Nate Hobbs, Bo Melton, and Kalen King. And Bo Melton and Kalen King going to be battling for that number 4 or that number 4 corner spot, right? Well, keep in mind, we don't have Javon Bullard listed here, right? So we need to mention that. Bull's going to play a lot of slot, it seems like. At least first week of camp, he's the number 1 slot corner on the team, it seems like. So you're carrying 5, but you're really carrying 6 when you talk about Bullard's versatility. And we're going to talk about safety in a minute, and Bullard's on that list, obviously, not being here with the cornerback room, Jacob. Man, that versatility with Bullard, and I know he's not great at safety. At least he was in his rookie year. He's better in the slot than safety. But, man, there's some value there with that versatility to be able to just throw him back here and go, okay, now you go play safety now because somebody got banged up.
Yeah, I think that is a massive part of this. I really wouldn't push back too much on that list. The only thing I would say is I think Kalen King's position could easily be Haddon's or Micah Robinson's, depending on how they play in the preseason. I think that's going to be a massive thing. And, as much as I hate being a negative guy about, I really do think Bo Melton's going to make this team, but there is one thing that does not look like the other on that list, and it definitely is Bo Melton. And if he starts, I think that might be the most intriguing thing for me to watch in preseason, especially on the defense, is throw Bo out there every game. I want to see how he does. I want to absolutely see if he's going to get worked. Let's see it happen now. Let's not build up this facade of that he's going to be a starting or even a backup cornerback in the NFL. If he can do it, let's go.
There's been players in the past. We kind of talked about a little bit from Jason Wilde's article last night of cornerbacks who were undrafted and ended up being huge role players, right? Huge role players for the Packers in championship years. Like we talk about Sam Shields, we talk about Tramon Williams. What if Bo Melton's that next food? How cool of a story would that be? Because this team loves him. The coaches love him. Us as the fans, I know we love him. Like, my God, you're talking about a guy that, just getting to chat with him a little bit in passing in Tennessee in the away game, and just how he tweeting back at people. He's just always positive. He just seems like he's one of these guys that when he is done playing the game of football, which is going to be a long time from now, it'd be cool to have, kind of like John Kuhn is on the sidelines, have Bo Melton back, because I don't know, man. He's an awesome guy.
Cheese curds make my stomach hurt all the time, but I do eat them though.
I hope he makes the roster, and I hope he balls out. Now, you guys know I was very, come on, guys, is he really a corner? You guys remember me approaching this when they made this decision. Come on.
Ryan, Ryan was, I see the writing on the wall. This is kind of basically the death march.
Right, walking the green mile, green mile. Yeah, Cheesehead Murph says, we are projected to be the youngest going into the 2025 season.
And then check this out. Our own Jamie, a.k.a. United Bates, says projected youngest teams for 2025. The Packers, 25.15 years old. Eagles, 25.4. Bucks, 25.59. I will say one thing. Those 3 teams have one thing in common. Yeah. Pretty good.
That's that makes me feel a lot better. Now, the Super Bowl champions, they did cut a few players loose. I do remember them turning over the roster a little bit, right? Like, was it Darius Slay? I think he's playing somewhere else now. He's a lot older. So that probably bring it down a little bit. I would love to see Bates, if you can do this for us. And Murph, thank you so much for pointing this out too. But Bates, see if you can find out where the Eagles ranked last year in terms of the youngest team. I would love to know how close they were to being the youngest team. So here we go. Youngest team to win a Super Bowl was 26-year average age, the 85 Bears. It's been a long time, ain't it, boys? Long time. Let us know, Bates, please, if you'll do that, man. I'll buy you a soda pop later, man. I want to know in Pittsburgh. Thank you, buddy. Slater's in Pittsburgh. I want to know where they were. Okay, there we go. Boom. God, he's so quick. United Bates, they were 3rd. So, Jacob, give me a little bit of hope here. I'm trying to be optimistic. It was the 3rd youngest team last year that won the Super Bowl.
No, I think that's amazing. Thank you, Bates, for being so quick on the button there. And I hate to just, steer a very serious comment into, what I like about the Green Bay Packers? I get older, they stay the same age. Yes, they do.
All right. Well, that line in that movie did not age well at all, did it? we all hear that and make a joke about it. Now we look up and go, damn, man, there's people, they were living by that, wasn't they? Some pretty prominent people too. Lord have mercy. All right, safeties. 53-man roster, 5. Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, Javon Bullard, Zane Anderson, and Omar Brown. Practice squad, Katano Ladapo surprised me. Jonathan Baldwin. Now, see, this is where I would differ from Bill, and I would consider Bullard as the sixth DB and probably would cut loose. Who was the other guy? I would probably try to get, if it were me, I would try to get Kalen King back on the practice squad.
Yeah.
And I would rather carry Catano Ladapo. I could see Catano Ladapo getting poached real quick if you try to get him to the practice squad. How do you feel about that, Jake? What do you think about Catan Ola Home Depot? Are we really going to be able to get him to the practice squad? I mean, that just seems absolutely insane to me that we could think for a second that he would make it to the practice squad. Am I wrong there?
I don't think you're wrong. And honestly, I think a little bit of recency bias because he's got Omar Brown on there. No, I don't think most people thought that Omar Brown was going to make this team other than the fact that he just got 3 picks at family night. Drafted free agent from Nebraska. Me and Tim loved him. If me and Tim were running an organization, I guarantee we'd poach him off the squad. But I just think, like you said, Keaton Oladapo, Mr. Home Depot, Mr. Paint his hair in whatever color that we want him to. I mean, he didn't have, I believe.
He's got swag, dude. He's got so much swag.
And last year, I think that he almost had a sort of a redshirt season, even though he did get some playing time. And I think he came on a little stronger towards the end and showed a little more kind of the chutzpah that we thought he had. I would probably flip him and Omar Brown, thinking that we could at least stash him for one more year.
Yeah, definitely. For me personally, I would put, and someone asked here, let me go to Dennis Shook. He says, Dennis Shook with the super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, I'm going 12-7 versus the Bears. You boys, please go. That's the game I wanted to go to, Dennis. My wife is trying to get me to go to the Vikings game, though. Instead, we got a nephew who's a Vikings fan, and we thought about taking him up in the box. He's a good kid. He's probably watching right now. He's a great kid, man. But yeah, I would rather go to the Bears game, to be honest with you. But I think she's pressing towards the Vikings game. We'll see how that shakes out. She typically wins these battles, so I've got to go ahead and warn you. But thank you for the super chat, man. Appreciate you. Brambo says 7 safeties on the roster, though. I don't see Javon Bullard as a safety at all, man. I don't. That me personally, that's a corner. He's a slot corner is what he is. Now he could play safety, but he's a slot corner. I personally would try to get Omar Brown to the practice squad over Catano Ladapo. Jacob, if you're building a team, all right, and you've got one more spot left on your roster for safety, and there's only 2 guys available, if you're building a team, and it's between Omar Brown or Catano Ladapo, who are you signing of those 2 players? I know who I'm signing.
Yeah, I'd probably take Keaton, but Coach Lynn makes a good thing. Amor getting his snatch up. He's put too much on tape already. He's put too much on tape for the Packers family night. And I, not to, sell that short. You guys know that I think that's one of the best things in all of sports. I just think that we are looking at it maybe with a homer lens in that aspect that I don't know. That's the first I've seen Omar Brown really shining. That could just be me, but yeah, Keaton, was he a 6th rounder? I want to say he was.
Yeah, I think he was a
5th or a 6th rounder. So I think, yeah, check us out, UB. Man, hey, by the way, just guys, we got 420 people in this live stream right now. On a random Monday night, we're just talking some smack. So if you guys could hit the like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff, it really does help a lot. So Cody Newman, 5th round draft pick for Keaton Oladapo.
Got it.
Yeah, because that was after. Remember how to? Because we went Bull, Evan Williams, and Keaton, and we were all happy that night. Everybody was
right
happy.
Here. I got the board, the draft board from that year right here in front of me, right? And literally, this is how the safeties fell for my board: Tyler Nubin 1, Javon Bullard 2, Catano Ladapo 3. So we get the 2nd and 3rd best safety in the draft, in my opinion, in that draft. And then we turned around and got Evan Williams, who was lower on my board, but he ended up being better than all of them. Now, he was highlighted in green as, hey, this guy is prime for the pick and for the Packers. They love this type of guy in terms of whatever it was, Senior Bowl. We had a number of different, qualifications, but pretty wild. They flipped that safety room around real quick. And I always make the joke that Joe Barry was like, damn, boys, why didn't y'all go get me these guys when I was here? Like I had to march out Darnell Savage and Jonathan Owens to play as my starting safeties. So Coach Lynn, Zane is 29 years old. We can get him back on the practice squad.
That could be a good point, man.
That's a great point, Coach. And I love Zane. I thought Zane showed some flash. But, Jacob, you're talking about Omar Brown just showing flash and family night. as much as I like Zane Anderson, he showed up for like 1 or 2 games.
Yeah.
And he gets a concussion, goes out. So it's like
people didn't believe he existed legitimately for like most of his career.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Specialist, 53-man roster. Brandon McManus, Daniel Whelan, and Matt Orsic, right? Practice squad, Mark. Say it, Jacob.
Where am I looking? McNamee.
All right. I'm just giving you the opportunity to get it right because I'm going to screw every one of these names up. So pretty cool. They just basically said, all right, this is going to be our new project at kicker. And you know what? What if they do get this? And he's the international player, right? What if they do get him to kind of pick up on the game real well? And in 2 years, 3 years down the road, when Brandon McManus decides to retire and maybe he's lost a little oomph in that leg power, they could just pop him right into the lineup and pick up where he left off. I think it's cool that they've got McNamee learning from Brandon McManus. I think that's awesome. So
yeah, respect to say it's McNamee.
See, that's what
sounds more Irish, you know.
Yeah.
But
everybody says it. I've heard like 4 different pronunciations, so I just say Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love it. And like I said, if you guys, an interesting interview, one that I did not expect was the Brandon McManus interview from like maybe last week early, where I believe he talked about how he shares a personal trainer with Travis Kelce and how they work together worked in the off season together to kind of get a little more, you know, meat on the bones kind of thing. Yeah, easy. And, but he actually went on to talk about how he has not had the consistent snapper and holder like ever in his career, and that he's just excited to go back into this, that even in Denver and at Jacksonville, there was just always a little bit of mix up, whether it be the holder, the snapper, and then the coach. Like he said that this is so great going into another year and just being able to have some continuity. And I think that it's working. I mean, what is he like? Literally almost 98% right now, which I remember me and Clay, I think one of the only times that we kind of got not like in an argument, but like actually like a pretty heated debate. It was early in the season last year, and we were going through, I think, Narvison and Greg Joseph and a few of the guys. And I think Clayton's point was like, look, you're not going to find a guy on the street that isn't signed that's going to be hitting 98, 97%. And all Brandon McManus did was just quiet every single quote unquote person that said it couldn't be done. He just said, all right, you guys are giving me another shot in the league. I'll show you what I can do. And he came in and just basically been an absolute freaking heat seeking human meat missile the whole time.
Yeah. But in my own defense there, when we made that comment, he was still facing a suspension from the
exactly.
league.
Yeah.
So it's like, get him off the list. There's nothing we can do with that. The second he became available, and it wasn't like, hey, McManus got cleared, let's go sign him. I don't remember it happening that way for me. I just remember we signed him. I'm like, oh crap, this is happening. This is awesome. Like it was, you know, because again, kicking in Denver, obviously with Denver, it's easier to kick there in terms of, you know, distance, but you know, you do have to kind of get used to